Hey everyone, Sharon Cummings with Keller Williams Real Estate here in Allen, Texas. And today's Wisdom Wednesday, we are going to be talking with Will Cobb. Will is with MBRGFR. They specialize in foundation repair, had lots of clients use them in the past. They've done a great job. And you know, foundations are something we could all use a little wisdom about. So, Will, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome. So, tell us a little bit about, what to expect, I guess, with the changing seasons, foundation wise. Like, what are your thoughts that are good to just share with anybody regarding foundation?
Well, right now we're in what's considered the moisture wet season, right?
Mhm.
So we're getting more rain than we had in the summer. This past summer, as many of you probably know, was really detrimental to a lot of foundations. We had very little rain. We had a lot of high heat. And one of the reasons that we have this phenomena, if you will, in North Texas is because we have expansive soils. It's called caliche. Okay. And when they build the houses, they build them with they bring in fill dirt. Okay. So they level everything out in your subdivisions. Then they bring in fill dirt and they pack it down. And then when they pour, and we'll just keep it relative to slab foundations for this explanation.
Yes.
They pour the slab and then they have your perimeter grade beam. Well, your perimeter grade beam does not penetrate that first level of soil that they pack down, which is mostly caliche, right? And then they bring the fill dirt onto that. And so as we go through changing seasons, and anybody that's familiar with with uh, uh, with Texas weather, you know that all you have to do is wait a minute, okay? And just a
Yes.
couple of weeks ago, we were sitting in the 80s and everybody was enjoying it. And then now we're waking up to 33-degree weather in the morning. And so you get winter in the morning, you get spring in the afternoon, and then you start to touch in summer by the time it's 5 o'clock, especially now that we've changed times. All
Yeah.
right.
And then
So
fall is somewhere between 5 and 7 p.m. usually. So,
yes. Yeah,
and
exactly.
tomorrow it'll be
So
summer. So be ready.
yeah, yes, and you never know what you're going to get, right? It's that
True.
box of chocolates.
True.
But with Texas weather, we can have a myriad of different climate changes throughout we don't have just a standard fall and winter and spring and summer. So as we rotate through the seasons, when you get a lot of rain, the soil expands. Okay, it
Mhm.
holds water. All right, and so everything will expand and things will rise up. And then when we get into the warmer seasons, especially a Texas summer, um, it dries up, and then what you have is you have the soil will shrink exponentially, and it's that exponential shrinking that causes things to go down. And that's when you
Mhm.
start getting the deflection in your walls. And once you
Mhm.
start getting deflection, that's when you start seeing signs of uh, of separation and expansion joints. You see signs of window separation, freeze-board movement, mortar cracks, and that sort of thing. Okay, and then on the
Right.
inside, of course, it can materialize into drywall cracks, okay, and doors that aren't closing and shutting. And
Yeah.
this is what we call seasonal movement.
Okay. So when should someone be concerned, like, hey, I probably need to have Will come out and look at my house just to see? I know you've done that for several buyers for me in the past. You've done it for sellers, just to kind of see what's going on and see if something is needed.
Anytime that you start seeing door sticking,
Mm-hmm.
okay, you start seeing drywall cracks, it doesn't matter how big they are. It's always a good idea to contact me at that point in time. Okay, I
Okay.
come out, and what I do is at each one of my visits, as you know, I do what's called the level B engineering evaluation, and I'm very consistent on how I approach the rules. It's the same thing that a structural engineer does. Okay, so I look at every house in the same criteria. Okay, I draw the house up, I look at it visually, I note significant distress that's going on out there. Okay. And then once I do that, then I come inside and I shoot with, people call it a zip level. It's actually, technically it's an altimeter that we use. All right. And we start in the middle on slab on grade houses. And then I zero out it as a baseline. And then I move throughout the house and I look to see where the drop is and what those elevations are throughout the house. And I match those with what's going on with the distress that I've recorded. Okay. So anytime that you have seasonal changes and you start getting door sticking or you start seeing distress,
that's time to
that's
maybe
the
get it
time
checked
to
out.
at least get it. And the biggest reason that you need to do that is you always keep in mind that the way our plumbing works in these slab on grade houses is the plumbing always comes down through the walls and it goes out underneath the foundation. Okay. Yeah. And depending on the age of the house, will depend on how much weight any deflection is being applied to the pipes that run up underneath your house.
Yeah, I think that's something people don't really think about that much, is how foundation can affect and often does affect the plumbing in your home. And it is just so important to kind of keep an eye on that. So
that is something that should be at the forefront of every homeowner in the state of Texas, is when you let foundation issues go. Okay.
You're letting plumbing issues go right with it.
and it puts distress on plumbing. If you let it go long enough, it can cause damage to plumbing. And in some cases, not all cases, but in some cases, the repair work that you have to do on your plumbing can cost more than the repair work that you would have to do to either stabilizing or relifting a house back to whatever that 0 point is.
Gotcha.
Okay. Keep in mind that when it comes to foundation repair, there are two priorities. The first priority is to stop the movement, the downward movement. Okay. And the second priority is to lift the house as much as the house will allow you to lift without overlifting. Okay. It's never about, a lot of people use the word leveling, and it's never about leveling it to 0. Okay. Because the perfect slab on grade foundation is going to be shaped like a shallow mushroom. All right. So think of it as when it's poured and it's built, and then you put the weight and built the house on it, which is the load. Most of the weight, due to the laws of physics, are out on the exterior. Okay. And on the exterior, you have an exterior grade beam, which is 10 inches wide. And by modern day standards and codes, it's about 36 inches deep. Okay. So that's where most of the weight goes. So think of it as when you bake a cake, when you decide, if you're not sure the cake is done, what do? You stick a fork in the middle, because it's always the middle that finishes cooking last, correct? Well, it's not so much different on foundations. All right. So the last part to cure, okay, and it's the chemical reaction and the heat that actually makes concrete harden, is you are going to always usually have a little bit of rise and then a shallow depth out to the outside.
Interesting. Well, I'm not great at baking cakes. So if I have foundation questions, I also will call you for that. So are you in the baking business also, or just foundation?
Well, I'm pretty good. I'm pretty good at baking cornbread. Okay. My wife and my kids love my cornbread. It was the recipe was handed down from my grandmother.
Oh, wow.
And it's always done in an iron skillet. Yes, it's always done in an iron skillet. And believe it or not, even though I've lived in Texas since 1970, I don't ever use yellow cornmeal. I always use white cornmeal. That is the true Southern way.
So no Jiffy mix.
No, it's done with buttermilk and always done from scratch.
Oh, nice. We'll have to try that sometime. That sounds great. Well,
anytime
I will not get into telling you about my baking experiences and how they have ended in complete tragedy. But there's been a few. So yeah, I'm not a baker. I sell homes. That's what I do.
And
You fix
you
foundations
are
and make
excellent at
cornbread.
selling homes. Let me tell you, I know
Thank
I've seen
you.
you in action, and
Thank
you're
you, Will.
awesome.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Well, thank you for coming on here today and just kind of helping people understand a little more about foundations. Obviously, if you don't know this, you should water your foundation evenly around the perimeter. Is there anything you'd like to add to that just for people to understand?
Yeah,
Maybe first time
that's a
homeowners.
absolutely, that's a really good point. So in some cities, based on this past summer, there are still some watering limitations still in effect. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But typically in a Texas summer, most cities will will ask you to not water between the hours of 10 and 6. And the reason of that is because it's the high heat. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And you get
Water just evaporates.
an evaporation. It evaporates faster than it can absorb into the soil. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So for homeowners, every homeowner should walk around their house, okay, every
Mm-hmm.
month, okay, at least once a month. Pull back the grass, see if it's receding from your perimeter grade beam. If it is, that's a sign that says you need to hydrate
It's
more.
thirsty.
Okay.
Yes.
It is thirsty. You want that soil to be tied up against your foundation.
Okay.
You want to make sure that you've got a nice moist soil from the perimeter grade beam out to about 18 inches, and watering enough to where it penetrates down to about 2 feet. Okay. And that's the rule of thumb that I use. I water mine and adjust the hydration times depending on the seasons that we're in. Okay. And I usually, during the hot parts of the month, I usually have mine start at 4 a.m. That is going to be the coolest time and the darkest period. Okay. To where the evaporation effect is going to be less. All right.
Right.
And then I always just monitor it. Okay.
Yeah.
Keeping your yard nice and hydrated is important as well. But keep in mind, the city cannot tell you that you cannot water your foundation. Okay. You are allowed to do that. They just don't want you watering the yard and the sidewalk and then the part of the yard that's between the sidewalk and the street.
Right. Okay. Well, good. Well, that's good information. There is a lot more information that you could learn about foundations if you have questions. Will, what is the best way for somebody to reach out to you if they would like to just ask you a few questions?
You can always call or text me any time of the day or even in the evenings. And my number is 214-797-2264. I serve most of the North Texas area. I'm usually this side of the Arlington line, and I have clients that I serve all the way down from Waxahachie and all the way up to Sherman.
Okay.
And the
Awesome.
evaluation is always free.
Good to know. And then, of course, if you're thinking about buying or selling, I would love to be your real estate agent and help you with that. And if you need help with just anything home related, even if you're not buying or selling, please reach out. I've got great contacts like Will and other people that can help you with those home maintenance items and issues that may come up.
And she is the best at what she does. I have seen her in action, and it's amazing, folks.
You're so
Give
great.
her a call.
Thank you, Will. All right.
I
Well,
love you,
thanks for
honey.
joining us today. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Talk to
Have
you
a good
later.
one.
Bye-bye.
Bye.